do a little fun fact Friday. Give you a little history lesson on flails. We started flail in 1994, probably the beginning of flails when they really were getting developed. The chain back in those days was pretty much junk. The trouble was there was a limited amount of flails, so for the chain companies to develop good chain, it wasn't profitable because there wasn't that much market. So what we were given was real hard chain, brittle, wore out quick, and there was no real good answers to the chain. So what we did back then was you would take the chain out after a few loads and flip it so that the other end would wear out. And what we were doing is pulling rods, changing every day. Middle of the day we'd do chain, replace. Inside of our chippers looked like machine guns that went off because there was chain flying everywhere, going through the knives. Was expensive. Rod wear was expensive. The rods weren't good, they wore right out. So everybody was looking for an answer to change the chain quick. No one had one, so I've been thinking about it for quite a while, talking to Morbark, and I come up with this idea. And what it is, it's a hook, and this is the one that I built, the prototype, and it had to have a combination to hold the chain. So the way it worked, and this chain is too big, it won't turn on here because this is different than the ones we used to run. But you take it, yeah, you'd slide it down here and then you'd twist it on and then it'd hang, and then when you go to take it off, you do the same thing, and then you could flip it end for end. That way you go in there. The trouble we had was this. Number one, the flail drums that Morbark was building, the rod set up too high in the drum, so this was exposed and that could get broke off. That was one big problem. They would have had to redesign the drum, go down in. The second problem we ran into was this edge here would get worn and it'd roll up, and then you couldn't get the chain to roll off. And the same with this here, you get it'd wear and you couldn't get it on. Them were problems. So the hook that John showed you about a year or two ago was one that they'd come up with at Forge, and it had these edges were machined down. You get the chain off better, but the chains didn't stay on long. It was a good idea. We patented it with Morbark, and by the time we got it developed, the flail market had went bad again. It's been a roller coaster ride, and the mills were hurting, so they wasn't willing to pay the money for flails. Chips were getting down, so it just got abandoned, and it ended up never going nowhere. So that's kind of where this started. I did make some money off that. I sold my rights to Morbark, and I don't think they ever made any money. The other thing about this was the inside of this hook would have a lot of surface so the rods wouldn't wear out. That was another advantage to that.
That's a good idea.
Today's chain is totally different. The problem with the old chain was you had two ends and it wore out right here. So this would wear out, and that was why you lost so much chain.
Especially on those 13s.
Oh yeah, they were
chain.
long and they were heavy. And so what they've done is they come up with a square chain. Nobody was willing to make anything back in the day, because even a round chain, every one of these had to be put together and welded in a machine, one link at a time. There wasn't a machine made at the time that could do that. Today it's different. Well, they went to a square chain, so now you have four corners to wear out, so your link is going to last twice as long. And then the other advantage, you got four corners that are sharper to hit the wood. That makes it more aggressive, so you don't have to run your flail so hard. So that's totally changed everything. Rods have changed. We've played around with machine shops and different hardnesses, and now we've got rods that last quite a bit longer. So everything's getting better except the price. We still don't get what we should for this stuff.
I'm not gonna tell him. I'm not gonna tell him. Or should we tell him? He'll figure it out right now. Oh, there they go. Tree's backing out. Yeah! He's all smiles up there. We got him. inside the chipper today. Yeah, I knew you were gonna do something. Jacking his jaws over there.
You had to turn your camera on me to get your next thumbnail.
Exactly. There you go. No, I got a thumbnail. So, oh, that drum's hot. Everything gets hot in here. We got to fix that side panel over there, bub.
Yeah,
Okay.
that just came off up in
Traverse City. So, the part that Mike made. So I figured I'd come in here and show you a little bit about how it goes. When Mike was here, we weren't able to get in here. Mike was in his clean clothes, so I'm sure he didn't want to crawl in here and show you how it worked. So what his part did that he invented, it sat in here, and then the chain hooked onto that. And what that made it easier was, right now you got to have kind of two people do this. You got to have somebody take the plug out, and you pull that rod out that's right here that holds these chains in, and then you can change them. But on that drum that's back there, there's all those chains, and up in there, all those chains back there. You have to have one person on the outside out here, and you're on the inside. It's kind of tricky. But with his system, you could change them all and flip them all by yourself, and it would be so much quicker with those. But he discussed one problem was the feed wheels aren't that much higher than the flail drum, so your wood's almost hitting them, and you'd have to indent the pocket a little bit for them and do some different work with the flail drum. So just wanted to get on here, kind of show you kind of what he was talking about, how the chain clicked in there. Now we're running square chains, which you wouldn't be able to flip them, but it would be, you could change chains super fast compared to what we do it now, which isn't that much slower, but you could do it one person. It would be a lot easier. So yeah, that's how they work. There's 3 of them on this chipper, but Josh is trying to find a leak. We found the leak. I found the leak. But that's how it works. That's what they're for. These are spinning really fast, and they knock all this junk off the trees. And then what goes out the spout is all clean chips over there, because Josh overfilled that van. So, you did? You was just doing it so I could show him what the clean chips were. And all the garbage comes out here, which garbage is just the bark and the limbs and crap. It just ends up out there and gets spread back out in the woods. So that's what the purpose of this is. And then that drum up there, back in there, the augers pull all the crap back here. See, they go way up in there. And they pull all the stuff back to the conveyor, and out the conveyor goes. So how it works. Fun. Just keep rolling.